The tea portafilter. So I bought the tea portafilter. I'll go grab it. I'm really, really liking it. I'm very surprised. I'm trying to convince Scott Ray. I'll explain why. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the wait. So here is the portafilter that I bought from the manufacturer. It's a Chinese manufacturer, and this is their design. There's at least two designs. Now, it turns out that our regular portafilter manufacturer makes a knockoff, basically. They didn't design this, but they make portafilters for the biggest espresso machine company that you know of, and they also make for us. Um, and their quality is very good. So the fact that they make a tea portafilter is interesting, and I think I've ordered a few of them. And let me explain why I'm not shipping it right away. And the reason is I talked to Scott Rayo and I said, any interest in this? And he said, not really. So this is what it looks like. And I said, okay, why not? He said, well, because pressure tends to bring out bitterness in tea, and percolation is not a good way to extract tea. I said, okay, well, a couple things. One is if you put this in a regular espresso machine, there's a spring in here with a ball that creates 4 bar of pressure, and you are running water through it 4 bar. You make tea, but it tastes bad so percolation is an extraction technique of running water through materials. Okay? And that's how we make espresso. And it doesn't work well, he says, with tea. Instead, what you want to do is let the water sit on the tea. Now, it just so happens, and it was not intentional by the design of this portafilter manufacturer, that this thing with a spring is a 4 bar on-off valve. Now, they didn't think of it that way. What it does is it's a spring that opens up at 4 bar, but they turn it on at their espresso machine, create 4 bar of pressure, and just water gushes out. So you can make bitter tea that way. Now, a Taiwanese espresso machine company, Pro for cafes, makes a 2-group machine that uses these things, but they have a special program that turns on and off. So they're still doing 9 bar. But what they do, and you can watch the video on Diaspora, they turn on 9 bar, then they stop, and then they sit for like 30 seconds, and then it's 9 bar, water flushes out, stop, and then 9 bar, off you go. And they make a tea, I think it was like a minute, 10 minute, 20 seconds. And apparently it tastes good, right? Hard to tell because it's bubble tea, they're putting sugar and milk into it. So I don't know, but that's how they're doing it. Now, I made a recipe, which is now part of the tablet app, which uses this in a way that was never meant to be used. And what I do is I use this as a valve that I can turn on or off at will by going to 4 bar. So what I do is I'm not making percolated tea. I'm putting water in high speed. I think it's 6 mils per second, takes like 6 seconds to fill up. And then as soon as I have pressure, which is to say this is filled half bar, I turn the water off. Okay, wait 40 seconds, then 4 bars to flush this out, and I think 12 seconds, and then stop again. And I make 4 brews. So each brew has the minimum amount of percolation possible, and long holds, and the tea is tasting so much better than kettle tea. I can't tell you. So I'm actually making a higher concentration tea than I normally like. So I drink British tea bags, but I don't add sugar or milk. So I'm actually tasting the tea. I'm drinking them stronger than I ever have, and there's just no bitterness. They're really good, and my milk teas for bugs are also stronger and are tasting just way better. So that's got me quite excited. Now, the reason I'm not shipping yet is that this spring right here, we can change the spring and make this ball, I think, open at lower pressure. And the reason I want to do that is because Rayo's saying pressure is the enemy of tea. And so what we want to do is try and make this here open at something like 1 bar, so that we could sit at half bar and then go to 1 bar to open it and then back to half bar. I don't know if that's going to work, right? When I put a 1 bar spring in here, it might be that it leaks. It might not seal correctly. But current supplier of portafilters said we can put whatever you want in here. However, they are really expensive. They're twice the price of the other company. I think because they're the famous portafilter maker. But you know, they're making a knockoff of this, so it's kind of galling that they're charging twice as much. Um, so I'm going to test it and see if it's worth it. But I'm also talking to these people who it is. This is pure stainless steel. This isn't chromed or anything. It's really high quality. It's got a nice screen in it, spring. I mean, I have no problems with the quality of this thing. Um, and it means I can sell this for like, I was thinking $120, whereas the other one is gonna be like 150, 160 because it's the famous portafilter vendor. And if I can keep the price down and the quality is equal or better. So the only thing I don't like on this is I'd like the spring to be weaker, and I don't think I can get this changed now, but this is kind of flat on top here as opposed to a basket that's rounded. And that means that the seal needs a little bit more tightening to be made without leaking. And I suspect that the one from the famous portafilter vendor is going to have the same problem because they actually haven't thought through anything. They've just made a copy of this. So we'll just have to live with that for now and have to make a tight seal. And in the future, get this mold. This is a stainless steel mold. This is probably like $25,000, $30,000 to make the mold that does this thing. So I'm not going to spend that, not right now. But it'd be nice to have this have a round lip so that it locks with less pressure. We're going to have to do something with this. I'll show you. These are M10, which is great. So it is compatible with ours. However, this is slightly smaller than ours, and they have this little sheet that they use over that to hide the difference in size. So we're gonna have to make custom portafilter handles to mate that perfectly. Or what I did previously is I took like that and I mated it this way, and that worked too. Anyway, long way of saying, I don't know, 3 weeks. I think I'll have this sorted out in about 3 weeks. I'll know what we're gonna do. But the tea portafilter is just, it's making such good tea. If I can get the pressure down, then maybe I can get Rayo interested. One of the people who contacted me is the admin or owner of a major tea forum, and he's super interested. I talked to Ray because this guy suggested that we would want to be able to go to higher pressures and higher temperatures. So he's not agreeing with Rayo. He'd like to go to 4 bar and go to 120 Celsius. And so he thinks that's going to make good tea. And he's another tea expert. I don't know. So I think we can go to 105 Celsius without a problem, maybe even 110. 120, we start to get a little uncomfortable because we don't want to soften anything inside the machine. The Ultim is rated at 180 Celsius, and we're currently far from that. So we're going to go very slowly to higher temperatures. But there'll be some tea research possible with more than 100 Celsius brewing possibilities as something people can experiment with.
John, could you just make a spring-loaded valve to screw onto the existing spouted portafilters in place of a spout?
So you can't, but I'll show you why it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So here's a double spouted portafilter, and if I create pressure here, what happens is I get leaking right here. Okay. Now we solve that sort of by putting an O-ring. We got a massive O-ring that we put here, which jammed in between these two things, but it doesn't work very well. So if you want to create pressure here, you have to have it seal against the portafilter, not against the basket. You can take the basket out, right, and seal against the portafilter, but it's not made for that. And so you have to rotate like almost at 3 p.m. to get it to lock. It doesn't lock very well. So you have to make a portafilter where it goes higher than the wings, which if you look here, you'll see that's exactly what they've done. They've made the portafilter go up higher than the wings. So yeah, that would have been nice, but it doesn't work.
Well, or could you just build it into a basket then?
Yes.
And then run it through a blind filter?
Yes. So we totally could take a blind basket and punch a hole in it and then put a valve, a spring-loaded valve on that. Or we could just buy something off the shelf that works really well. You know, I have to ask, why did this cost $25,000 to cast? Why did they do that? And no one likes to spend money. So it might be that making a basket with a valve was an R&D dead end for whatever reason. Sounds like it should work.
I guess my question with that is it looks like it's got the mesh screen built into the bottom for filtration.
Yes, it does.
And so it's like, what do you do if that clogs up?
Oh, it's there's a spring right here.
Oh, so you can remove it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, this spring pops right out, and then the mesh comes out.
Cool.
So, and then of course, if we did a basket, we'd have to basically put a filter on top of this with a spring there, because you can't put a spring. The spring has to be under the tee. Right, which is what they've done here. So, I think what they've done is good. You know, it's working. They're extremely popular chain of cafes in Taiwan using these things commercially. Also, this thing here, if you ever have a jam, this screws right off and the whole thing just pulls out. So it's really easy to clean.
Cool. And what's the volume that you brew in each of your like brewing pulses or brewing cycles?
So probably about 60 mils. Because I'm ending up with 238 in the cup, and there's 4 brew cycles.
So it's sort of like what do they call it? Like the Gaiwan.
Exactly. So there's a Chinese tradition of a really tiny little tea brewing vessel, and you pour the water in, and then you drink that 1 cup and let it sit, and each brew has a different taste to it, and the Chinese will often throw out the first brew. And I haven't experimented yet with trying to flush out the first brew out the flush valve. Someone suggested that. That would work with this, because this has got a 4-bar valve on it. So we could do like 2-bar water and just put water in and open the flush valve. So water, raise to 2-bar, flush out. Water, that. Do that like 3 times really fast, and that will get most of the tea out. And that would be neat as an option if you've got a tea where you actually need to throw that first brew out. And then you don't have to move the cup out. Otherwise, obviously, you can do it with the current recipe. You just hit start, you wait 30 seconds, you watch it flush into the drip tray, then you put your cup in. But I'm drinking way more tea because it's tasting better, but also I just put some tea in, hit start, come back in 3 minutes. And the tea tastes great, but also I didn't have to do a kettle and clean up. And it's nice also to just knock out loose tea into the portafilter, into the knockbox.